eventually forced.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March work session for the Board of Commissioners. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right. Will you please call the roll?
Mr. D'Amelio.
Present.
Mrs. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Siegel.
Here.
I think Mr. Holmes is caught in traffic. Mr. McGarity.
Here.
Mr. Connell.
Here.
Mr. Wexler. Here. Mr. Heilman. He's not here yet. And Mr. Oliva.
Here. I will be starting with the presentation from Haverford Township pension performance for 2003. John Spagnola, Mike Glacken, and Steve Iyer. Right up at the podium.
Okay. Thank you and good evening. We've been asked to do a brief presentation on the police and non-uniform pension plan for calendar year 2013. I'm going to speak for about 3 or 4 minutes and then ask my colleagues here from INR and Valley Forge Asset Management to comment as well. Last couple of years have been very good for pension investing. In 2013 was one of the best years we've seen in the equity market since 1997. The pension plan, the police pension plan, enjoyed some very good returns for the year. The plan was up over 14% for the year, 14.19%, against a benchmark of 15.75%, puts the 3-year number at 8.2%, and the 5-year annualized number for the police pension plan is 12.42%, which exceeds its benchmark of 12.16%. And that, of course, is ahead of actuarial assumptions by about 4%. So the numbers are strong in terms of investment gains, and all 3 firms have really participated. We work collaboratively with one another to set asset allocations, to talk about asset classes that should be invested in, and we each go about it our own way. Our approach at PFM Asset Management is to use institutional mutual fund approach, both active and passive. That has worked out to the benefit of the plan. Our investment performance this year was over 15%, and we do a lot of indexing in the equity space, and then we add active managers in the fixed income area. So PFM Asset Management was up 15.26 for the year in the police pension plan. I won't go into more detail than that. I'll ask each of the other individuals to talk about their performance. I should note, however, that for the year, the pension plan started with just, the police pension plan started with about $22 million, $21,969, and there were nearly $3 million of investment gains.
John, would you please be able to either speak up or closer to the mic?
Sure.
We're having trouble, and I think some of the people in the audience are hearing.
All right. What if I do that? Is that better?
That's it. Much better.
Thank you for pointing that out. Anyway, the police pension plan this year, in 2013, started the year with $21,969,000, and there were nearly $3 million of investment gains, $2.985 million, and it finished the year at $24.8 million. Net flows in contributions less disbursements were $185,000. So again, very good year, and I'll touch briefly on the non-uniform plan. Non-uniform plan enjoyed similar gains for the year. It was up 14.11%. The benchmark was 15.76%. Again, 3 firms, different investment styles, all with about a 60% equity, 40% fixed income allocation. PFM Asset Management was up 15.23% in this fund versus a benchmark of 15.76%. I will point out again that the 3-year number was 8.4% for the non-uniform plan, and if you look over the 5-year period overall for the non-uniform plan, the investment return is right on its benchmark. It's 12.16% annualized versus a benchmark of 12.16% for the 5-year period. Lastly, gains, $20.5 million at the beginning of the year. I'm sorry, $19.7 million at the beginning of the year. Investment return gains were $2,725,000. And the pension plan finished the year with $22,377,000. So again, very good year now. We've sort of erased the bad quarter from 2008, from the global financial crisis. If you look back at history, the bottom of that global market and the bottom of the bear market was March 9 of 2009. So really, we're coming up to the 5th anniversary of the bottom of the market, and the stock market has done quite well in the last couple of years. Through February, PFM Asset Management for Haverford police and non-uniform funds are up about 1.5% year to date. So again, there's been a lot of choppiness in the market. We've seen that. But so far, we've been able to book some good gains. So with that, I'll turn it over to either Mike or Steve for you to comment on your portion of the portfolios. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Mike Lacken with INR Advisors. We appreciate the opportunity to work on the Haverford non-uniform and police pensions along with Steve and John. Just want to quickly go through, our approach is one of an all-market approach using all exchange-traded funds, mainly from Vanguard. Therefore, our approach is one where we own the entire stock market and the entire bond market. Historically, we have overweighted slightly towards emerging markets, mid-cap stocks, and also had a real estate allocation as well. What that did over the long run is we had overperformance, better performance than the blended benchmark historically over the long run. Over the short run, over the 1-year period, that's lagged. However, just looking at the history here at Haverford over the 5-year track record, INR Advisors was up on the police pension up over 12.53%. Average return over 5 years compared to the benchmark of 11.58. 3-year up 8.44, 1 year up 14.36 for the police pension. Overall, going to the non-uniform pension plan, right above on the 5-year performance up 13.12%, 3-year up 8.4, and the 1 year up 14.11. Since our inception, we came in right at the market high in 2008, just to give you some perspective, with a 60% equity position even after the severe downturn of 2008. Since the township had the conviction to stay the course with a lot of also conviction from the money managers, our performance since inception of 6/1/2008 was up 4.67% on the non-uniform plan, where the blended benchmark was up 2.88. So staying the course, up about 2% higher than what the benchmark was, because the conviction of council and the township to stay the course. So I'm now going to hand it over to Steve from Valley Forge, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Steve Iyer, VF Investment Services. So we have another piece of the police pension and the non-uniform. As John talked about, we've had an unbelievable year in the equity markets. U.S. stocks were up over 30% this year. U.S. international stocks were up over 20%. And that's after mid-year, they were up about 0. So we basically remember Europe having all those problems, and that is starting to recover now. Bonds haven't done as well because we've had Bernanke started to talk, and now we've begun the tapering process. So our bond component hasn't done quite as well. because of rising interest rates. So for the year, we ended up over 14%, 14.36 for the police and 14.41 for the non-uniform. And the result of that, as John mentioned, and I want you to understand, is that is above your actuarial assumption, which means that as we go look at the funding requirements, that's going to be a positive effect on that looking forward in the future. The other thing is Valley Forge, we actually added 2 funds during the year, both fixed income funds and both designed to help mitigate rising interest rates. One specifically has some adjustable rate loans in there, so as rates rise, the interest rate on those loans will rise. So we're looking forward. We're very positive on the returns we've had. We're cautiously optimistic going forward. There's still a lot of clouds on the horizon. The Fed has begun unwinding tapering. That might have a negative effect on interest rates, but inflation's low. But corporate profits are high, and we have positives and negatives counterbalancing. But in light of all that, the markets seem to be continuing to grow, even into the last 2 months. So I also thank you for the opportunity to assist in managing the pension fund, and thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now I'm ready for the EAC. Is going to make their presentation. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's Dave Schwartz and Peter Puglianese.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. I just wanted to do, before Dave goes into a presentation on rain gardens, I just wanted to do a brief announcement about the Earth Day celebration, April 12th at the CREC, Community Recreation and Environmental Center. This year, we had our first one last year. This year, we're going to have an electronic waste drop-off, so people could come in and clean out their basements of electronic waste, everything with a cord. This year, I guess because of the success of last year's efforts, they are charging $5 per CRT-type television or computer monitor. We also have, for a couple of hours during that day, a shredder service, so you can bring your sensitive information and get it shredded. There'll be activities for kids, hikes, scavenger hunt, educational booth, tree plantings, movies, rain garden demonstrations, and so forth. So this announcement, there will be more detail on the agenda on the Recreation website. This is brought to you by the EAC and the Haverford Recreation Department. So hopefully we'll see you all there. And I will turn it over to Dave Schwartz, who will do our presentation on an initiative to develop rain gardens. Now, I will say it's going to be a little bit hard to see. Apologize for that, but we will email the presentation to you. We will post it on the EAC website as well.
Peter? No, talk to the mic.
Please use the mic.
People can't hear you in the back.
To the mic.
And on TV.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah, hold on TV also.
How are we doing? Thank you for having us here tonight to present our pilot rain garden initiative and adopt a rain garden program. My name is Dave Schwartz, second ward appointee to the EAC. And Peter, you can go ahead and hit that. All right, so I'm going to talk a bit about our pilot rain garden initiative this evening. And before I begin, I just want to go briefly into what a rain garden is. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the rain garden, but in case you aren't, it is a form of green stormwater management, basically. It has a lot of environmental benefits. It processes more runoff than traditional landscaping does. It can help to, it has a dual effect of reducing droughts and mitigating floods. And purifying water along the way. It's basically like a big sponge. It takes in a lot of water, releases it slowly into the ground, replenishes our groundwater supply, and can take some of the burden off our existing stormwater infrastructure. So just to go into that a little bit more depth here, I'll go through the water cycle briefly. And these pictures are probably hard to see. I do apologize for that. But in natural areas, you know, rain falls, some runs off into streams, most infiltrates into the ground and then goes into these streams. When you introduce the urban water cycle there and impervious surfaces, water flows faster, it picks up solids, nitrates, litter, things we don't want in streams, and puts them into our waterways. And then, because there's less groundwater, less water going into the ground, during heavy rains, streams flood. When there's not a lot of rain, they can dry up. So, what do? You put something in the middle. In this case, we're talking about rain gardens. The water will go into a rain garden. The rain garden will hold that water for a bit longer and then drain it gradually into the ground to replenish our groundwater supply. So what do they look like? Just like the name implies, they are a garden. Made of natural material. They're made of native plants, native soils. They can be pretty much any shape and size. This next one here, you can keep going. This one actually here is a rain garden that was built in Radnor. This photo, by the way, was taken during Hurricane Sandy. So, and actually after the hurricane, it's built about a week or two before the hurricane, held up very, very well. These things are very, very hardy. They hold up to a lot of conditions. This one is in a park, helps to mitigate the runoff from a parking lot. Keep going. Here's an example of linear treatment, and one thing I'll just tell you about, all these rain gardens here have water in them. Looks like they all were taken during or after a storm. Rain gardens, however, are designed to drain within 48 hours so they don't become a breeding ground for mosquitoes and bugs. And here's one that's in Philadelphia, a retrofit. So these can be installed pretty much anywhere, pretty much any shape, whatever your needs sort of call for. So, how they're designed, I'll just blow through this one here. You basically dig a small hole, fill it with native plants, native soil, put in some kind of overflow treatment for heavy rainstorms, and you have a rain garden. They're very similar, like I said, to gardens. All right, so why am I here? Why are we looking at rain gardens for Haverford? Well, obviously, the environmental benefits we've already gone through. The fact that saves money. You know, during heavy rainstorms, the wastewater treatment plants, we have what's called combined sewers in Haverford. It's combined sewage and stormwater. During heavy storm events, the wastewater plant can't manage all of that water because there's more water coming in from the rain. So they open their gates and raw sewage into our creeks and streams, get fined, and then of course the cost gets passed down to us. So this is a way to save money not only for the township's infrastructure, but also for, you know, our own pockets. And with 4 requirements, those are requirements that required mitigation of non-single source pollution, or in this case, runoff. And rain gardens are also more aesthetic, you know, it's a sort of neighborhood beautification method here, and, you know, that can still be a civic pride. And also, you know, one thing I will point out here is there are not a lot of rain gardens in Delaware County. We have Summit to Sea Rec, there's one in Radnor, there's a half of one in Sharon Hill. I think there are a few being put in a couple other areas, but I think that this presents an opportunity for Haverford to become a regional leader when it comes to rain gardens. I mean, media about a decade ago threw up a solar panel and called themselves Solar City. While a stormwater city doesn't quite have the same ring to it, you get the idea. It's a chance to be a leader, to get recognized. So before I get into the program, I'll just go into briefly how much they cost. I know that's obviously probably a bigger, one of the biggest concerns. Larger rain gardens usually do cost a little bit more per square foot. Rain gardens don't benefit from the same economies of scales that you may be used to in other types of construction. Biggest cost, though, really is labor and materials. Now, EAC is offering to donate labor for some of these rain gardens, and we think we have some ways. I don't want to say the township's cost will be zero. I would love to say it'll be zero, but for now, I'll just say minimal. You know, we're looking for support, possibly in-kind labor, the kind of things that are provided for tree plantings and other sorts of measures. So, our program here. We want to nominate a couple locations, 1, 2, maybe 3. EAC will review them for feasibility, we'll donate labor, possibly seek sponsors, which I'll talk about more in a minute here. Then we also want to do outreach to the residents. We want to build your own rain gardens. We want to, bring people in to help build them, get a hands-on, sort of experience in building them. And then also we want to use this as an educational experience, Put some plaques there, talk about what rain gardens are, maybe, students could come out there, have a look at them if it's by a school, really give, them, the high school students, if they are homeowners in 10 years, so get them started early. So, I mentioned funding a second ago here. So first of all, let me just say that Haverford is already doing some things. They're pursuing, the Parks Department pursuing a rain grant for a rain garden near the sea wreck. I'll show that in a second. We also have had some discussions with Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative. They are pursuing a couple of grants. Among them is this Ethel Sargent grant I mentioned here for Delaware County. It requires no cash layouts, just requires some in-kind support. They're willing to include us in this grant. They want to build some rain gardens and start some educational techniques as well. Plus, we'll also look for support from other nonprofits, Darby Creek, Eagle Scouts. Actually, Eagle Scout built that rain garden that we just saw in Radnor. So we'll look for those opportunities. I want to talk now also about our Adopt a Rain Garden program. This is an idea actually that I ripped off from Medford Lakes, New Jersey. They had what's called an Adopt a Circle program, where they were basically neighborhood beautification. They would have businesses put in plants and flowers and nice things in exchange, put up a small, tasteful advertisement. Now, you know, so if you get a business like a Lowe's or an Orner's landscaper to donate some materials, maybe a little bit of money, in exchange, and also enter into a maintenance agreement in exchange for putting up a small, tasteful sign. Not a big billboard or anything huge, but, you know, something small, something nice, something that's pretty, you know, low-key. And maintenance, by the way, for rain gardens is pretty low. I mentioned it's native plants, native soil. They're used to this area. You go up there once a month, clean up litter, that's it. So township costs basically consist of oversight and possibly in kind, like a truck to haul away dirt or something like that. So, all right, so the Wren grant. This is one that Haverford is currently going for, just to give you some precedence here. This area by the sea wreck here by the soccer fields. This is kind of the area. This is the kind of area that we're looking at. It's highly visible, a lot of traffic, a lot of people are around here. There also is some localized flooding in the area. So we want to find areas that are visible, that people can see, they can walk by, they can look at, get people used to the idea of rain gardens, and start small. You know, get the ball rolling here, more or less. All right, so moving forward a little bit and looking kind of more longer term. We want to start small, like I said, but we do have our eye on the future here. We want to develop some organizational capacity here, really. You know, get partners both within the township and outside of the township. Possibly seek some technical expertise. There are a lot of philanthropic programs. American Planning Association has a philanthropic community design collaborative that brings experts out, possibly to look at a rain garden feasibility and prioritization study for the township. Universities like Penn, for example, they have a planning program there. They do projects for townships. And, I mentioned before, look for outreach tools. We want to bring people, if they want to build rain gardens in their own yards, give them a hand. Plan some annual projects. One of our thoughts was some 100 rain gardens in Haverford in 10 years. And actually, that's not really ours. If you go ahead there, go ahead. That's actually from Ambler. They're doing the same thing here. A lot of the stuff in this presentation is copied. I'll admit that off the bat. So, there is a precedent for doing this. So anyway, I mentioned before it's sort of an innovative approach that we're looking at here. We're looking to spend very little money, get some rain gardens built, get some community training involved, get some nominations through a township for to build them, go for some grants, and possibly look for programs like Adopt a Rain Garden to help get these things funded. And EAC, of course, we'd offer to coordinate partnerships. We offer to do all the legwork. I'll be asking for, like I said, some support and possibly some in-kind labor. So. Before I end here, I just want to talk about one of the grants here. This is a National Fish and Wildlife Federation grant. This one I believe is due pretty soon. The Stormwater Collaborative, who I mentioned before, is going for this along with the Pennsylvania Resource Council. And they're trying to, again, get rain gardens built in some of these townships, get some educational projects going, kind of do what we're doing. We've had some talks with them, and they're willing to let Haverford really take a lead role in this if, that's what you guys want. We certainly take that role. And again, in-kind contributions all we're looking for. And we do have letters of support that could be signed. So if anybody on the board wants to sign on, it couldn't hurt with the grant application. So our request from the board this evening, we sort of are looking for a general endorsement. We don't want to operate in a vacuum. If we approach nonprofits and businesses, we want to say that yes, we've talked to the board. Yes, they're generally on board with this. Yes, we're not just some nut jobs who are going to go out and start digging up holes in the township. We also want some input for pilot rain garden locations. I was going to give you guys a series of maps and GIS overlays and floodplains, and then one of our meetings we mentioned this idea to Commissioner Hall, and she started saying, "Oh, I have some ideas for areas," so we figured let's take the easy route and just ask you guys basically for some ideas on this. Not today, obviously, not this evening, but at some point in the future. If you have any complaints of flooding in your wards, we're looking for locations that are highly visible and locations that are publicly owned or that have some written consent or oral consent from a private property owner. So that basically is our program, and if there are any questions or concerns, I know that the agenda's pretty full tonight, but if you have any, I'd be happy to field them at this time.
All right, thank you.
Oh.
I'm just curious, based on your presentation, you indicated that, the treatment plant sometimes cannot handle the overflow of water, and therefore they open and let the raw sewage into the stream. How frequently does this happen?
I don't have the exact data on that. It's typically, though, during large storm events, like a Sandy.
It doesn't happen.
Nobody opens it and lets it out. It just exceeds the capacity.
It's one of those things that there's not a whole lot of there aren't good options when you have a big storm event. Now, fortunately, during big events, a lot of that water is rainwater and runoff. But yeah, it's what's that? Oh no, it is. And I mean, it's just one of those things. It happens in Philadelphia. Happens everywhere. That's one of the reasons why we're looking to mitigate stormwater runoff.
Just have
All
to.
right, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for your time. Presentation. Next, we have the Historic Commission with the certified local government application.
How do we get this sewage? Every time it rains, we dump the sewage out of the streets.
Good evening. My name is Matt Maurer. I'm representing the Haverford Township Historical Commission. I know I presented to you guys previously. Come back to see if there was any questions. Would you like me to go through it again? Anything else that, any questions you had on the previous presentation?
Well, you came all this way. Why don't you go through it again?
All right. The certified local government, it's a program in conjunction with the National Park Service and the State Historic Preservation Offices. It kind of just gives each local community's historical commission recognition that they're doing their part in conjunction with the State Historic Preservation Office. What it provides to the Historical Commission, it really gives us access to all of their information and also to some of their funding should we need anything for that. It also helps, they can help us with the public outreach materials, such as publications, videos, and brochures and things like that. They also have a lot more historical information that we might be able to tap into. If we were to nominate one of the local buildings in the township, they would be able to help us with a National Register of Historic Places preparation for those nominations. So really what it is they provide us with a lot more help that on a local level would take us a long time to actually do all the research and go through everything and ask all these questions, where we can just kind of go to them and say, we need help, this is what we need help with. And a lot of times they can even donate staff. They have staff that they could lend us to assist us in these topics. Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. Actually, I want to ask a question about that.
Yes.
Would I get your point that they can help you in terms of the designation of a property. Would they also be useful in talking you out of a property? I mean, do they have maybe a more exacting set of standards or at least more experience? So,
well, they would assist in the application process. So in the application process, if it does not meet the National Register of Historic Places criteria, then yes, they would have that ability. I mean, they know they have more connections and they know more than we would at the
but I mean, it's strictly advisory. We're not, at no point are you delegating or are you asking the township to delegate to this organization any of our decision-making powers or any of your recommendation powers?
No, they would just offer strictly assistance for anything we would do currently or take forward in the future.
Thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. But like I said, they becoming a certified local government helps us get status with the national and the state historic preservation offices, and it just allows us to tap into a lot more resources than we would as we currently stand.
This application.
Okay. And that was it.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Questions?
We'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, this is a work session. We could ask this question. What is the act we need to take? To do a resolution?
Yeah. we'll put together a resolution and
Okay. Yeah,
the next commissioners meeting.
I put together the whole application. All it would involve was the president of the Board of Commissioners, Mayor, would just sign it, and then we can send it off to the state office.
Can he get it to me?
Yeah, we can get that information from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks very much, Matt.
Thank you.
And now we have a crime update from our chief.
To call it that. Can I
Good
move
evening.
we call it something different than that?
I'll give you a brief
On
crime
crime
stat report summary for the month of February. We did have one attempted strong arm robbery at North Manoa and Washington Avenue. Juveniles attempted to steal a cell phone and a wallet after striking the victim from behind. The month of February, we experienced 8 burglaries that were reported. That's a 27% decrease from last month. 3 of these burglaries were by forced entry. 1 was an attempted burglary. The remaining 4 burglaries, there was no forced entry as the homes were left unsecured at the time of the entry. 4 of these burglaries, nothing was taken. 2 of the burglaries, jewelry was removed. 1 burglary, cash was taken. And the final burglary, 1 wristwatch and a laptop computer was taken. We did have 15 thefts from parked cars during the month of February. And of the 15 car thefts, thefts from cars, 12 of them were reported unlocked at the time of the thefts. And of these 15 thefts, the department exceptionally cleared 10 of these thefts with 1 arrest and 1 pending arrest. Traffic for the month of February, the department wrote 231 moving violations, gave 215 warnings, and they issued 233 parking tickets. Any questions?
In the I guess it was forcible.
Strong arm robbery?
Yeah, strong arm. Over on.
We can't hear you.
On the robbery at Washington, did we apprehend a suspect?
We did not. We believe it was an incident that continued on from an incident at the stadium. They were juveniles, and we're still investigating.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. We will now continue our public comment for the Municipal Services Building Library. I will allow people to speak for 5 minutes. So if you just, let's...
Explain the rules.
Yep. Okay, for us, let me just explain. This is a public comment section. This is not for the Board of Commissioners.